Rowdy, what are you doing? Huh? He's funny. Getting old. But happy Thursday. Oh, in the spirit of everything happening for a reason. The uh, the moment that changed my life more than anything, I say the happiest moment of my life to this point. The way I write about it is, I came home from a leisurely afternoon round of golf. Uh, Nights or days that I play golf, I don't cook, and I was handing Mackenzie my phone so she could approve the DoorDash order. And as soon as I said that, she said, "Let's trade." And she turned around and handed me 3 positive pregnancy tests. And this is where time stops. The world stops spinning. Everything slows down to a point where it's truly the happiest moment of my life up until this point. I think the next happiest moment will be when I get to hold a little guy when he gets here in December. But that moment of, all the people in your life that tell you won't understand what it's like to be a parent until you're a parent. There's a concept in spirituality that we cannot be the best versions of ourselves until we become a parent. So I understand in 2025, not everybody wants to be a parent. It's fiscally irresponsible if you watch movies like Idiocracy, which are hilarious. But in spirituality, in our animalistic nature, raising a child unlocks something in my brain. There was that same moment that everything slowed down, this wave of creativity was unlocked. I can't just look at the world around me of 8.2 billion people with all these different gods and all these different religions and all these people fighting, while some people think that their God is great and things are just going to happen the way they're supposed to. And it's just not true. We have work to do as a species and as a community, essentially. We can't just keep living in our own fantasy worlds where what we've been told for the last few thousand years is just automatically correct because everybody believes different things, where we all are meant to believe one thing. So that part of creativity that was unlocked in me in the last 5 months, I've published 2 books. One of them talks about Kabbalah, Hebrew Gematria, basically trying to build a foundation of trust and love through actual history. So I'll go back in 6,000 years of recorded history just to, give us all real information that's researched with AI and verifiable. So fact check me on all of those things as you please. The other book is more like a Tuesdays with Maury meets Seinfeld meets The Matrix, where I'm playing golf. The couple I got paired up with just happened to be high school sweethearts, and I'm talking to ChatGPT the whole time. So the dialogue is something that I tracked with AI, and that conversation talks about MJ versus LeBron, The Matrix, and how it ties into Kabbalah, a lot of different things, fatherhood, things like that. And I've also made a musical album. I attached the link to everything because I think music spreads the fastest, and as far as getting the message across of spirituality, the whole album is called Gematria. It's like half reggae, half hip-hop, no cursing, very spiritual, with all the underlying things of numbers like 13, 86, 207, 358. Just getting the message out there that this stuff exists. The secrets to life are not that hard to find if you really want to find them. And the newest thing I've done is life insurance. Never did I think that I would find myself in a business like this. And I actually just got licensed in Florida, so shout out to UD, Mr. 305 himself. And with Michael Beasley and Chalmers and Lance Stevenson, these guys winning the Big 3 championship, it's got me missing Miami a little bit, which I didn't think would happen. But being licensed in Florida, I'm talking to all my friends that I grew up with, it's family as well. And life insurance gets a bad rep, or people think it's a scam. And the reality is we're all gonna die. So the fact that we're all gonna die means someone's gonna have to pay for a funeral. And whether it's $8,000 for cremation now, $10,000 for a funeral, $20,000 for nice flowers and life celebration, inflation has my funeral around $50,000 if I live out my life. So unless you have $50,000 lying around to pay for a funeral, we should talk. Even if you have all the money in the world and you don't think you need life insurance, well, when we die and our family has to pick up the pieces, things go into probate. The funeral wants all the money up front, so all the money that's tied up in assets and needs to be approved. I just happen to be partnered with a company that pays out in 4.5 days. So in the cheap self pitch and the car salesman in me that knows how much time is money, everybody wants to save time and everybody wants their family to mourn properly. So even if you have all the money in the world, it's worth having your money diversified. Great. IULs, variables, getting dividends, and building estates is absolutely something you want to do. You also want to talk to me about how to save your family time and money as well. So when it comes to life insurance, I worked in assisted living where my budget was $4.25 per person per day, meaning I had $1.25 to feed them breakfast, $1.50 for lunch, and $1.50 for dinner. And these are our elders, cancer, on dialysis, suffering in assisted living facilities, people from Eastern Europe that don't have family. And for the most part, they were happy to be here because we do have that type of infrastructure as a country. But at the end of the day, that's what's approved. That's what's allowed by the state, by the federal government. It's $4.25 per person per day for low end. Even if they're getting salmon and lime caper butter sauce, it's $17, per person per day in the $8,000 a month, $10,000 a month facilities. And that's still frozen fish and food out of cans, just dressed up with some fresh produce to make it look nice. And it's a reality, we live in a country that's $9 trillion in debt. We live on a planet that's $320 trillion in debt. So the joke is, who's all the debt to? The Decepticons? It's the craziest thing to me is how so many people can be suffering. So many people will pretend like everything's okay, and yet we're still trying to figure out a solution to how to make the world better. So all this arguing about politicians and all this arguing in organized religion and who was first and who was right, and it's unnecessary. And it's really why this is now the sixth video of suggesting where spirituality over organized religion should take home. So I'm just a guy who worked in hospitality his whole life, or most of his life I should say. After working in assisted living facilities, working with special needs children, working with the Miami Heat, and knowing how amazing these guys are, there really are some great people out there. And that's the community I'm trying to build and connect with, and build that platform to where life doesn't have to be this hard. If life were easy, everyone would be good at it, and nothing in life that's worth having comes easy. So all this work that we can start doing together, I think, is really the way of the future. So keep the conversation going. Keep letting me know how you feel, whether you agree or disagree. We have all the access to information in the world. We should be the smartest human beings to ever walk the planet, and yet we have all these facts and people are still believing lies. So when people are spending billions of dollars to miseducate the youth, this is a psychological warfare strategy that's been around for thousands of years. For people that were raised in the Jewish community, this is nothing new. And for people that are anti-Semitic, good luck to you. It's not too late to understand that all people are still people. But in the spirit of optimism and life just being great when you let it, it's a happy Thursday. So we get to do this again soon.